4.0 and just algorithm updates in general. I'm Chad Hill, and I'm actually in the Rochester office with Adam and the rest of our team here.
Yeah,
hello,
great.
everyone.
Hey. Hello. Hello. Great to be with you here, Chad. It's going to be a good one.
Cool. So our agenda for today is we want to take a look at these different algorithm updates and talk a little bit about what the different algorithms are, these different animals, Panda, Penguin, payday loans, very exciting names for things. And then we have a fun little survey we wanted to do, or we wanted to show some different links that we found and have people take a vote on where they fall in the spectrum of intent to manipulate the rankings or not. So let's start with the Panda history. Panda has been around since February 2011. And really, when it was originally launched, the whole idea was to crack down on what Google calls thin content, content farms, sites with high ad-to-content ratios, and a number of other quality issues. So that's a lot of stuff. And I think really what Google at the time, back in 2011, was trying to do was to crack down on affiliate sites that were primarily either supported, had a lot of duplicate content, a lot of very thin content, sites like Easing Article, Hub Pages, Mahalo. I mean, it seems like these have kind of, in the day, were huge sites, were all over the search rankings, but now they're pretty much gone.
Yeah, they were everywhere. I mean, if you remember those days, the affiliate links and the affiliate market was just everywhere.
Right. So obviously, this was a big impact of those types of sites. I mean, businesses were lost. Mahalo, there was a lot of talk of that business as a venture-backed business that essentially was decimated by the Panda update. So, like I said, it launched in February 2011, and the reason we're talking about this today is because Panda 4.0 launched last week, and this was actually touted as supposed to be a little bit more friendly to small business. And if you dig into that, probably what that means is that Panda 4.0, when Panda originally launched, a lot of small business websites probably tend to have thinner content. And so what Google was trying to do was adjust the algorithm a little bit to maybe have those small businesses who were impacted by Panda but had real original content and were real websites, maybe not have them impacted by the Panda update. Next on the list here is the payday loans update, another fun one, and I found a good image here that makes it look extra sort of spammy and yucky, a nice neon sign there. But the payday loans was a special algorithm update that originally launched in 2013 that targeted these super spammy niches that, as Google characterized it, but these are things like payday loans. A lot of porn was involved in this, probably some pharmaceutical type of products that people were selling, overseas pharmaceutical products. And really the idea here is that this doesn't really, it impacted those industries, launched in June 2013. And again, the 2.0, I don't think there's really anything too notable here other than to know that this did launch. All of our customers tend not to play in any of these spaces, so we really didn't see or have ever seen any impact by this because it's just not the typical customer that we, or by that means you guys as our resellers, are dealing with. So let's talk about Penguin, another fun animal here, Panda, Penguin. Now, Penguin was all about trying to create filters in the Google algorithm to devalue links to a website that did not meet Google Webmaster Guidelines. So this is the over-optimization algorithm update. Again, it's really more of a filter than it is an algorithm update. And Adam and I have talked about this in the past. There's kind of two types of algorithms at Google. There's the algorithms that give you rankings, and then there's the algorithms that sort of take it away. And Penguin is more on the take it away side of things. This launched originally in April 2012. There have been a number of updates since then. I think the most notable, most recent update was back in October of last year, and that was Penguin 2.1. Now, this, on the grand scale, did not impact a huge number of their queries, but it did impact a lot of small business websites, especially ones without diverse link profiles. And what I mean by that is that, if all of you had all your eggs in one basket, which was building anchor links with your geo-targeted keywords, then you had a very good chance of being impacted those businesses who also had more diversified marketing programs that included things like press releases or any sort of general public relations and just building a brand tended to have a more diverse link profile. And even if they did have some geo-targeted anchor links in their link profile, they weren't impacted by Penguin or some of the later updates of Penguin. Now, Google did not announce a new Penguin update, but there's a lot of people that are speculating that there's probably one coming soon. And if you look back historically, it seems like Google rolls out these fairly big algorithm updates on a May and October cycle. At least that's what they've done in the past, with some smaller ones along the way. So you can, right on schedule here. Panda 4.0 launched in May. Payday Loans is out in May. So a lot of people are speculating that a Penguin update is coming out soon as well.
So Chad, a question here. Can you further articulate what you mean by link profile?
Right. So link profile would be, there's a number of tools out there: Open Site Explorer, Ahrefs, Majestic SEO, even Google Webmaster Tools. But your link profile is who and how people are linking to you. And so that's the number of links, it's number of pages on websites linking to you, and then is that link, what's the anchor text of that link? Is that a site-wide link or not, or is that just on one page? Is it embedded in a story that's relevant, or is it essentially just a page full of links that and one of those links to you? So your link profile really is all the people, who and how many people are linking to you.
The characteristics of every one of your inbound links. Would you consider, Chad, domain authority, citation flow, trust flow also part of your link profile then?
I'd say yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah, and so I think, as this slide says, 2013 was a very, very busy year for Google in terms of really turning the knobs on the algorithm, the portion that looks at that link profile. And we also know it was a very busy year for giving out penalties, right? So we saw that all over the press. But we have not heard a whole lot from Penguin thus far in 2014. So I think, Chad, it is safe to say that's got to be coming.
Right. And you made a good point, though, because while we haven't seen anything on Penguin, there have been a number of higher profile manual actions that Google has taken, especially around some link networks in Europe, some in the U.S., and so that has been going on. But as far as we know, there haven't been any big filter updates on the Penguin algorithm, on Penguin.
Right, and Google is very good at timing some of their larger PR moves with then their algorithmic updates, so they kind of have maximum impact. So they'll take down a big guest blog post network and then follow it up with a Panda, and then probably pretty quickly then a Penguin. So it's actually part of what they do to keep people on their toes and not allow people to really understand what impacted what, because they're following on the heels of their updates so quickly. Very smart on their part, given their objectives.
Okay, so I think the number one thing is, how do I protect myself in the future? The question that people are asking here is like, well, how do I make sure that my website won't be impacted by any future updates? And that's a fairly impossible question to answer. But I think the first place we would recommend that you look is you want to be familiar with the Google Webmaster Guidelines, and then you want to make informed decisions based on your tolerance for risk, because we've been talking about an analogy here about sort of speeding on and driving your car on a highway. And some people have an immense fear of getting a ticket, and so they always drive the speed limit or 1 mile below it. And there's other people who are willing to go a little faster maybe. There's a risk of there being a problem getting a ticket, but in most cases people say that if you go 7 or 8 miles an hour over the speed limit, you probably won't get one. But everyone has to make that decision, decide how much do you want to push it in order to make sure that you're taking on and understand that responsibility.
Chad, somebody actually wrote in while you were talking, saying, so are we now saying that link building is bad, quotes, end quotes, bad? So I think that's actually probably a good segue to where you're going. It's a very complex question. I think it's undoubtedly we can say link building has changed, and explicit link building for the purpose of just link building, it has definitely moved more into the bad column, whereas a couple of years ago most people would not have taken that position, but Chad's about to explore that more.
Yeah. So like I said, you want to probably read the Webmaster Guidelines for yourself. Now, I published last month, or earlier this month actually, I went through the Webmaster Guidelines and wrote an FAQ, which is on our website, and do HubShout services comply with Google Webmaster Guidelines? So most of these things are simple slam dunks. Let's just run through these and talk about them. So in the Webmaster Guidelines, which again, there's a link to the actual Google Webmaster Guidelines, so read the original source. But here are the main points. You cannot automatically generate content. That's 100%. We do not do that. We've got a team of writers sitting in the room with us now. Everything we write is 100% original and done by our writing team. Cloaking. So cloaking, you can read about this stuff, but essentially we do not recommend or implement any type of cloaking that would attempt to manipulate rankings. Sneaky redirects, no, we don't do that. Hidden text or links, no, I don't even think that it works anymore, but we don't do it. Doorway pages, no, I think there's a little bit more in here that you can kind of read about, that there are cases where for certain types of content you might have personalization, but at the end of the day, I think the literal definition, no, we don't do it. Scrape content, no, we don't do it. Participating in affiliate programs without adding sufficient value, no, we don't really work with any affiliates. We certainly don't do that. Loading pages with irrelevant keywords, nope, we don't do that. Pages with malicious behavior, nope. Abusing rich snippets, no. I think you have to just always keep up to speed on some of the authorship side of things, but generally speaking, no. Automated queries, no. And then avoiding participating in link schemes. So this is sort of the granddaddy of them all, because that one leaves a lot that we need to discuss. So I think that rather than reading this verbatim, you guys can always read this, but I just want to hit a couple of the key points. Now, even in this year, 2014, Matt Cutts has come out and said that links are still the best signal for them to determine the authority of a website and to provide the best rankings for their customers. So I think the first thing you have to realize is that in 2014, links are still important. It's still the primary driver of rankings in the search engines. Okay, so
and that's straight from Google.
That's from Google. I've got a link here to a webmaster video where Matt Cutts talked about that, because someone said, hey, can't you just get rid of links if you have all these problems with them? Why don't you just get rid of them? And basically, the answer here is we can't, because they're the best signal. We've tested this, and we don't have anything better. So links have been part of Google's innovation in search since the very beginning. That goes back to the PhD work that the founders did at Stanford. It was all about using links as votes. So what that means is that, but if you read down further in their definition here, and I'm going to quote this, they say, any links intended to manipulate PageRank or sites ranking in Google search results. That is what qualifies as a link scheme. So I think if you read that pretty,
yeah. Read it one more time, slowly.
So how does Google define a link scheme? They say any links intended to manipulate PageRank or sites ranking in Google search results.
So any link placed with the intention of manipulating the output, right, we would consider a bad link and part of a link scheme, versus, I think, I'm editorializing here, what they would say is an appropriately earned or editorially placed link that would have been more organic.
Right. And we even know that we heard that Bing, one of the Bing Webmaster Guidelines, went so far as to say that a link should be a surprise.
Right. To be a surprise. Right. Happy birthday.
Right. You should never be actually thinking, every link you get should just be a surprise that you got it. So anyway, I think that before we go any further, the two parts of this that are really important to remember is that Google is saying links are important, but they're saying you cannot build a link with the intention of improving your search ranking. So really, I think that puts us in a position where there's sort of this impossible standard, right, of if you're doing this to improve your rankings, any link technically is in violation of Google's Webmaster Guidelines. So I think that puts a lot of people, again, and we're going to talk about this at the end. So you have to read this and make the decision for yourself. If someone said, does that mean that links are gone and all link building is bad? Well, I think you have to make the decision for yourself. If you're worried that there's that you could potentially be impacted by a future update, then and you want to go 64 miles an hour on a road with speed limit 65, then that may be the determination you make, is that all I can do is on-site blogging and infographics and just things on my website and hope that I'm surprised every once in a while when someone links to me. Or I think and most people when they've read this, they say, well, there are other things we can do around, for example, public relations and digital PR that allow us to work on ways to promote our business. Now, you may not always get a link, but there's a good chance that you can be cited or have references back. So what we wanted to do here was to actually run down through some samples that we found on the web and have people vote on whether or not they would view the links that we're going to show you guys as intent to, let's read it again. We want to know, are these links that we're about to show you intended to manipulate PageRank or sites ranking in Google search results? So we're kind of interested.
I really wish this read primarily intended. I really wish it said that, because I think one of the things I think a lot of people struggle with the sentence is it makes it sound like you can only have one intention when you do something, right, which is not the human condition. You often have several motivations when you do something, but it doesn't say primarily intended. If it said primarily intended, then you can argue I had audience value and I also want to rank better, but it doesn't say that. So I think in the final conclusion, Chad, you're right. People have to be really comfortable with exactly what Google's saying and understand the risk, because that's a fairly high standard, almost an impossible standard. You can't even really think I have any intention of ranking and meet that sentence. So unless you go to things that are just so far away from any sort of promotion that might end up in getting you a link. So I think that's a really important thing for folks to understand, recognize the risks, and be really comfortable with. And I also think it's very gray, which I think this exercise that we've dreamed up here is kind of interesting, right, to see how people react to this as we try to figure out exactly, how do people judge intention, when they're looking at something post hoc after the fact.
And before we hit that, I do want to just read, again, I recommend everyone go read this FAQ. I spent some time putting it together, and I think it's a good thing to have under your belt when people are asking these questions. So,
and I have a few questions for you too.
Okay, great.
You go to the
so just in terms of what can you do, we believe in diversification, so we don't think you should ever put too many of your eggs in one basket. So that's not only just within your SEO, but that's also just in your online marketing, and really, for that matter, in your business in general. We do believe in building a brand. We think that when you look at most websites and you look at their link profiles, and there are tools, again, that can help you see how and what people are linking to on the website. A lot of people who have a brand tend to have a lot of their links being on their name, which is just natural. So build that brand. That will naturally, you'll gain links to your website. You want to make your content interesting, because again, if you want to be surprised when someone links to you, you need to have good content on your website. We'll hit this again a little bit later in the webinar, but more and more, we can't even really work with you unless there's good content on your website. The direction we're heading, we have to have relevant, interesting, newsworthy events and information on your website. And then again, as long as I think back to what Adam was saying, and around intent, and can you have multiple intents, but I think if you're always thinking about there being some audience value to what you're doing, then that's always, in my opinion, a safe place to be, because no matter what if you have multiple intentions, some clearly would be to improve your ranking in search engines, but also if there's an intention to help for an end user and an audience, then I think that puts you in a safer spot.
So a couple of questions, Chad, that have come in. One person said and asked, so basically any link must serve a purpose. In other words, it must benefit the user experience in some way. Is that what you think this is saying?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was just saying there. So I think if you always keep the end user in mind, then you have a second purpose for there being a link, and it's not just about SEO. And I think, Adam, you said before that it's the intent primarily about search rankings versus not. So.
But again, I was saying I wish that's what the Google guidelines say. It isn't what it says. So we all have to be really aware. It's much stronger than that. It says any. It basically implies any intent by a strict reading. Here's another comment, a question. I think the question is, how can we ensure that inbound links feel as organic as possible?
Right.
So, Jen, I'd be interested in your reaction to the person who put that comment in.
Well,
is it about how they feel? Because, again, strict reading of the guidelines, it doesn't say on review of a link it feels organic. It actually speaks to the primary intention of the person who put the link there, right?
That's a tough one to answer. I'm kind of interested to see when we look at these in a minute what the survey responses are in terms of where is the line, because we found a nice little spectrum of links. I think some will fall easily in one camp and some are probably right in line and some I think are on the other side of the line.
Right. So I think that comment that the person put into the chat window here makes a lot of sense, and I would want to agree with it. But again, we're not Google. We can only interpret what Google has given us, and they're not talking about how it appears. They're talking about the primary intention of the person who placed the link. So again, that's why we're just letting everyone know we really want, our philosophy here is full transparency. We want everyone to really think about this and understand that we don't even know. We don't even know the answer to that. That's part of why we want to run this poll now and see what people think to do the best we can.
All right, let's get back to the poll then and check that out here. So, okay, our first one here is a comment that we found, and as you're reading the comment, it starts off. It's on a women's health website. Starts talking about yeast infections, but then a sentence into it, you get a link up to LeBron James shoes, and then you've got down here below about some other things, and then you've got Coach Outlet. So it looks like what's happened here is someone has taken probably someone else's content and then just injected into it anchor links. So first one, let's see if I can get the poll to work here. Let's get a sense from everybody. And I think these should pop up on your screen. And I'm going to launch it right now. Poll must be closed to enable screen sharing. Okay, yep, it looks like it's working. Okay.
So everyone should see a pop-up window with a question. We encourage you to participate. It's anonymous, right? You're not held liable for your answers.
Yep. Got 42% of the precincts reporting in. This one seems to be unanimous, or close to it at least. I think there must be a few jokers in there. Sorry. Okay, it looks like we're done there. So, yeah, we've got 90% saying there was intent to manipulate the ranking. So,
why do we think everyone saw that so unanimously? Because the anchor text really didn't have anything to do with it, and it was such rich anchor text.
Yeah.
Those are good cues, right?
Yep. Okay, so let's look at our next one here. Okay, so this is a directory. There's a million of these things out there, and we're in we are in the Best of the Web, Business and Economy Services, page 6. And so you can see here, these are all do follow links, precision machining, document shredding Minneapolis. So this was just a screen share, but there were another 20, 30 links on this page. So let's get the poll here. Do people think that there was intent to manipulate rankings here? Okay. Definitely looks like there's some more people who
are neck and neck on this one, right?
Believe directory still. That's good.
It's changing.
Okay, so I think that's about where we maxed out last time. So we've got 67% saying yes, intent to manipulate, 33% saying no.
So less certain than the last one.
Right.
So there was a bigger group of people who saw that and said, actually, I could see you're in that directory because there's a real audience here and they're actually looking for a precision machining group. But overwhelmingly, the majority of people said, no, I think that was placed there with the intention of manipulating, but less clear than the last example.
Definitely. And this also just, we're going quickly through this, but the next place you might want to dig is to say, and I think that even this website on the left is trying to prove that they have Alexa rankings and that they're a number 126,000, which I think goes back to the audience side of it. So they're saying, hey, we do have some audience Whether or not that's just a real number or a fake number, we don't know. Okay. See if I can get to the line. Okay. Now, this one, I just had to scroll down. This is on a blog, and what I wanted to point out was the site-wide links. The site-wide links, these are on every single page on this website. You would see these. Now, again, I'm just going to point out a couple things here. So there's some site-wide links, and for me, I see things like Queens Medical Spa. I see Zephyr Hills Personal Injury Lawyer. So I want to open this up and see if people believe there is intent to manipulate the rankings with these site-wide links. I think you say site-wide and people
react.
People, yeah.
Somebody thought it was okay.
Yeah. Okay, that one's 94%. I got a couple of late voters here. 94% or 88% said yes, intent. 12% said no. So we'll go on in a second. All right, here we go. We're on to an article now. Manslaughter is terrible. And you can see here that in this article there are dreaded geo-targeted anchor text links here, Florida wrongful death attorney. So I wanted to get an opinion on intent to manipulate the rankings. Okay. Give it one more minute here, and we're getting faster on the vote. Okay, so this time we have 89% saying intent to manipulate the rankings, 11% saying no.
Also very strong, and here we think the cue was the geo-targeted anchor, because many people understand that that's a factor, and so they placed it there specifically not to be useful to the end user, but to achieve rankings.
Right. Okay, next one here is a story about Kieran Gallagher losing his brakes in a race, and then there's a quote in there from a mechanic talking about how it's important to get your brakes checked and replaced regularly. So, and then there's a reference to that person and a reference to their business. So again, intent to manipulate rankings, yes or no?
And it looks like their title is listed there.
Yes,
Marketing
their title,
director of.
Got, in this one, 38% said yes, 62% said no. Okay. Keep going. All right, here is one that's 4 floor cleaning tips sure to impress mom this Mother's Day. And you can see in here that there's a link for efficient cleaners, and then I think down at the bottom it links back to a company that sells these cleaners. So let's get a check on that. Intent to manipulate the rankings, yes or no? By the way, we have one more after this, so this isn't going to go on forever. There's 7. Okay. All right, looks like I'll give it another minute here.
Yeah, wait till it gets to 42.
Yeah. All right, so we'll close that out.
So that one came back closer.
56% said yes intent, 44% said no.
Closer to a toss-up.
Yeah.
So some people didn't like the anchor text, probably.
Yeah.
Others thought that looked pretty natural because of what the article context was.
Right. Interesting. Okay, last one here. This is one that was on our ebook on Digiday. There was a blurb about our survey that we put together, and it had a link back to our website. So I'm going to open this one up. Intent to manipulate the rankings or not. My mouse is. Okay. Cool. So that one was 22% said no, and 22% said yes, intent to manipulate, and 78% said no. So, wow, good information.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
So the two that got the most no's were this one, which was citing original research that we did, and also did not use any sort of discernible anchor text that seemed at all out of place.
Right.
And I think this one, which was then a quote from an actual business person, also did not use keyword-rich anchor text, used their name and their company name, and appears to be something that they actually said, which is very related to the article. So from our little scientific study here in the last 12 minutes, it seems like a lot of the tactics from 2 to 3 years ago are pretty widely recognized as now a marker of intent, and some of the things that are more along the PR, public relations spectrum, getting quoted in news stories, doing original research to make news. So news and PR clearly come out as very favorable. That's interesting.
That is interesting. Okay, well, let's talk about this then. So, based on those surveys, I mean, I think some of that stuff is good for us to have as research just to get a good poll. I think in general, we agree with you on everyone that has voted. So I think I wanted to just wrap this up. I'm sure there'll be some questions, but I wanted to talk about, again, you guys making the determination of what's right for your clients. So if you answered that yes, there's intent on every one of those slides that we showed there, then you probably want to be thinking and pursuing a content-only approach. And that would be focusing on on-site blogging, things like infographics and buzz graphics, using content discovery networks like Outbrain, again, our buzz graphic product. When we put that blog post with the infographic on your site, we also promote it using Outbrain, which we talked about in one of our previous webinars. You might want to consider paid search. You also could consider press releases, but you certainly would want to make sure that you didn't have any do-follow links in your press releases. You would want to make sure that they were purely for generating some awareness of news events that you're doing. Now, if for those of you who I think answered yes to the quotes and to some of the news angles, then I think digital PR is a great option, and that's where we have been heading and going to continue to head in that direction. But you have to realize there's a couple differences between that and what's happening a couple years ago in the SEO world. You can't guarantee links anymore. So there will be times where your story gets published, but the exact link you want to the exact place on the website doesn't happen. But you can't guarantee it, because if you were, then you're back into the intent land. You also we're going to be, as a result of that, we're going to be selling activity more than and doing our best to get your best placements. But there's going to be a lot less, again, guarantees around that. And then I think the final thing that we want to say is that if your client isn't doing anything interesting, it's awfully hard to do digital PR for them. And that means that if they don't have interesting facts on their website, or they're not working on ebook content or surveys that they're doing, it gets really hard for us to work on that type of content anymore. So
I have a couple questions for you.
Yep.
So 2 people wrote in, Chad, and said, asking about directories. One, does the statement from Google mean that directories are a no-no? Someone else said, so does this mean all directories are bad?
Right. That's a great question. I think for a long time the answer to that is, like, it comes back to, is the directory, is it useful from an audience standpoint? So, more and more the 3 or 4 or 10,000 or however many thousands of directories are out there, that are purely there for SEO purposes, I would say those don't help you. I don't think they've helped you for a while. So I wouldn't.
That's sort of the effectiveness question, I guess they're asking, though. Is it okay in Google's mind, based on the statement, and the honest answer is we don't really know.
Yeah.
Right? That's why we're taking you through this so specifically, to show you what Google's told us and help you digest that. I think ultimately, and I think that question has been asked of Matt Cutts, so I think if you do a little research on that, we can maybe do that and offer it up in our forum. And he's given a fairly vague answer. Well, a little bit, if they're good directories that actually have audiences, okay, but not too much.
Right.
And so we're kind of in the same boat, really having to share with you what he's told us, which is, there is no 5 is okay and 7's not. That's not something they tell us. Or 100 is bad, but 98 is okay. We wish we had those guidelines. We don't. Google is vague on this. You need to be aware of that. You need to make your clients aware of that, and understand that there's risk if you do too many or the wrong ones.
And certainly then how you link, because what I definitely can tell you is that if on all those directories you link with geo-targeted anchor text, meaning that it's the Tampa personal injury lawyer is how you link them all back to your website, then you're really setting yourself up for some potential issues with Penguin, or either now or later.
Another one, Chad, here, is keyword-rich anchor text essentially a no-no in 2014? And that was the same type of question, right? We know, Matt Cutts has told us it is still in the algorithm and still a very valuable factor for making your site rank, but we also know from the Penguin updates in 2013 in particular, they're taking a much harder line against people who abuse anchor text and signal their intent by overusing the anchor text on the keyword they want to rank on. So is it a no-no? Again, I wish we could tell you a black and white answer. Again, we have to refer you to what Google's saying on intention, and you have to understand that there are risks associated with pushing the needle too far if you are indeed placing those.
Yeah, and so if you do have anchor text links, you certainly don't want it to be too consolidated on any one term, right? You want to make sure that it's fairly diverse, and you really do need to go back to more using the on-site updates and titles and whatnot to really hone in on the exact keywords that you think you want to rank on.
And this last comment here, Chad, is very interesting. Someone wrote in, seems to me like any of these links could be intending to help the rankings of the site they point to. That's the nature of a link, and it builds credibility and authority as it builds the rankings.
Yep.
Yep.
That is true.
Right.
Okay, so any other questions, Adam, that we have there?
I think that wraps them up.
Okay. Good. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed our webinar today. And like I said, we had Panda 4.0 rolling out, and we thought this was just a good opportunity to talk about this, let you know about the FAQ. I really would recommend that everyone go and read the FAQ, make the decisions for yourself, call us. We're happy to walk you through and talk about it. We've been working really hard on providing a very diverse set of services that we can help you with. So we are more full service than ever, I think, on that front. We've got a lot of cool and interesting ideas that we're working on right now. So we appreciate you guys working with us and look forward to seeing you soon.
I appreciate you helping us on our poll today. It's very interesting data. I'm sure Search Engine Watch and a few other folks would probably be interested if we decided to publish it.
Yeah.
Thanks again for participating. Very interesting stuff, guys.
Yep.